DEMOCRATIC. Everything you need to know about the Vigo Dem Party. So sit back, relax, and watch from anywhere. Get ready for a chat with a chair.
I'm Joe Etling, Chair of the Vigo County Democratic Central Committee, and welcome to the award-winning Chat with the Chair. We're delighted you could join us. We got an awesome show this evening. We're going to be talking about some various topics, and of course, we are coming on the heels of a opening of the new Holman Center and the brand new Indiana State University basketball team. So this young man with us, tell our viewers who you are.
Zak Boisvert. I'm one of the new assistant basketball coaches here at Indiana State. Arrived in Terre Haute in April, and so I'm finally getting comfortable here. Thanks to Miss Vicky, my time here, I'm finally getting the lay of the land.
Well, that's awesome. So, Coach, tell our viewers a little about your background. Quite a background that you have. So, talk to us about that.
Yeah, I had a dream while I was growing up that I wanted to get into coaching, and I graduated from Fordham University, and I think the whole time my parents were thinking I was going to go into law school, follow my dad into law school. My dad's a lawyer, so they're thinking I was going to go to law school from there, and I informed my dream to try this coaching thing out, and 12 years later, I've never had a job in my life. I don't view what I do. It's what I truly love, so I've been able to fool them along the way and get paid to do it, and I truly get paid to do what I love, and so it doesn't feel like I've ever worked a day in my life. So
where are you from? Where's home?
Home for me is Portland, Maine. Maine, and growing up there for 18 years, I wanted something a little bit different. I wanted a different experience, and going to school in the Bronx, where Fordham University is located, I figured that was like the polar opposite of it. So I went there for 4 years, got a degree in English, which I use constantly here as my role as a basketball coach. But from there, bounced around college basketball, working at Iona College, Fairleigh Dickinson University, University of Maine back for 2 years, and then directly before Indiana State, I worked at West Point, United States Military Academy, for 5 years, which was the professional highlight of my life, just getting a chance to be around that caliber individual, of the people that come through there, the players that come through there, the faculty that comes there, and I spent 5 years there and did some great things. And when Coach Schertz, who I'd known for a number of years, called me in March and they offered me the job, and the chance to move to Terre Haute, a place I had been once before, I jumped at it. And it was tough. West Point's a tough place to leave, but ultimately I was really pulled by Coach Schertz's vision and also the tradition of not only the Missouri Valley but Indiana State as well.
So, of course, Fordham is an unbelievable institution of higher learning, great place, of course. So, of course, you must have been quite an achiever academically in high school. Talk about some of your other activities growing up and what it was you think that maybe motivated you to get into coaching.
Well, I always say the kind of the core where someone who wants to get into coaching, kind of what pulls them into it is, at some point they encountered a great coach themselves. And so for me, I encountered great coaches throughout my early life, and I think I saw a rise in self-esteem. I saw an impact those coaches made on me, and it clicked to me and said, hey, I'd love to do that to someone else. And that was the infancy of it all. I felt that, and I wanted to try to do that to others. And I think part of it was to stick around the game that I love. And by the time I was a certain age in high school, I realized there wasn't any pro career of any means coming. And so, how can I stick around this game? Because truthfully, sports for me was everything. It was the bond. It was the bond of how I met my friends. It was something my dad and I bonded over, watching the Giants, watching the Boston Red Sox. So for me, it was really it's something that was founded a lot of the relationships I had, but it also had taught me, instilled me a lot of the values that I had, the value of competition, the value of teamwork, and whatnot. So I think, frankly, I think maybe part of coaching for me was the chance to just kind of stay around the game. And but I was a serious student. important. My parents, made sure of that, and I got good grades in high school, and I had the opportunity to go to Fordham University. I was very into writing and reading at the time. I'm still now I try to read as often as I can. Try to read every day, and so that's what led me to Fordham and led me to ultimately majoring in English. But frankly, that was almost at that point I had my sights set on coaching. So English was what I did really well, and so it was all right. If I really want to pour myself into coaching, hey, what's something that I can make sure I keep my good grades in? And English ended up being it. Though my dad, I think the whole time was thinking, fingers crossed, I was going to follow him into law and be a lawyer. So sorry, Dad.
Well, I'm sure he's proud as punching you, though.
I know he is. He is.
So what would be your introduction to basketball? What was the first time that you remember basketball, that you fell in love with it and it was really got you going?
It was early. It was in elementary school, and it was through two vehicles. And any kid growing up in the '90s, it was Michael Jordan because he was playing every year in June, and it was the college basketball tournament and the NCAA tournament, and there's something about that bracket being printed, and it's like perfectly like mathematical. It's 64, everyone funneling down to 1. And so I was born in '88, and I remember vividly, it was one of my, like, you know how it's, you have these like weird early memories, but like you distinctly remember it. So I remember in 1994 watching the Duke-Arkansas title game in 1994 that Arkansas won, and that, they had a big fan in that. They had Bill Clinton. I remember my parents explaining to me who was in the press box, why he was in the box. So because he was an Arkansas native, and so I remember that. And just I got pulled in, and my dad, he was so great because he'd play off the interests of my brother and I. My dad loved music and he loved sports, and so my brother's 4 years older than me, and he kind of took and ran with music, and that was my dad's love, and like my dad kind of nurtured that in him. And I think for me, I kind of saw that as like music was my brother's thing, my brother and my dad's thing, and sports could be my thing with our dad. And so we from an early age, I got hooked then, and by 4th grade, I mean, I was attending every basketball camp. All my entire summer was going to this camp one week, this camp the next, and bouncing all around. And by 4th or 5th grade, I was absolutely hooked. And I was hooked with, again, what I mentioned earlier, the competitive aspect to it, but also I think basketball, and not to sound corny and zen, but I think my passion for the sport comes out. And I hope it comes out now, and I think it comes out in my coaching as well. Is I really do think it's the beautiful game, and it's the beautiful game of it's a game of teamwork, and it's a game of constantly thinking about what is best. How can I contribute to the best of the team? I think there's something very cool about that, for lack of a better term, and I think that's what hooked me from a very early age, about the ability to share and play with each other to try to beat the 5 guys across from you, and it being very democratic in terms of it can, if I wanted to, I could. Football's a little different. The offensive lineman can't touch the ball. As soon as the ball's hiked, they can't touch the ball. Basketball, anyone could do it at any time, but you constantly need to, give of yourself for the team, and that's what really stuck with me now to this day.
Now, Coach, oftentimes, and maybe more so from the standpoint when I was a young person as opposed to maybe as you were growing up, and it seemed that though those involved in athletics were viewed as being less intellectual than those that weren't. I mean, but you definitely break any stereotype of that. But from your perspective, has that changed or evolved, you think, with people as far as the intellectual, academic approach towards athletes, coaches, etc.?
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's very interesting you said, because actually earlier today we hosted a faculty appreciation lunch, and this speaks to your point. And some of the coach shirts organized where each one of our players got to nominate 2 of their professors that they have over at Indiana State, and they notified them that they would like to invite them and have them for lunch. We rented out a dining room, and we had about 30 professors on campus, and we came up in discussion with one of the deans that there's almost a stigma at times of athletics and academics, going against each other. But frankly, for each one of our players, I see myself as playing a role in their education. I see, that there's things being taught in the classroom and there's things being taught on the court, and I think together we can merge and help facilitate growth in these young men. And what the dean was saying is there's oftentimes seen as rivalry, but frankly, the scholarship athlete at Indiana State, and I hope I'm not stepping over bounds, the scholarship athlete at Indiana State actually boasts a higher GPA than the average student at Indiana State, varsity Division I athlete. And what that shows is that there is a certain amount of discipline, a certain amount of rigor, a certain amount of accommodation for what the person wants most of all, rather than what they want at the exact moment, that produces in them a discipline to take their work seriously. So I do think it goes hand in hand, and I think as the years have gone, there's been an embrace of the intellectual coach. I think it's a long ways away from what the dictatorship and the sergeant that maybe I experienced a little bit, but maybe the generation before me experienced a little bit more. And I do think there's a change on the coaching side of trying to see coaching as a partnership with your players and trying to invest in them on a level beyond just when I blow my whistle, what I say goes. And I think it's a change for the better.
I think it is too. I think it's great that you guys are embracing it, and that sounds like a great program that you put together. And of course, the challenge that you have and all your staff has, of course, you got to recruit players as opposed to them being showing up. So you got to go recruit them. But I would have to think that would be an awful great lesson and experience to just share with their parents, that you're coming into people's living room talking about doing that with their kids.
No, absolutely. And it's something, recruiting is something I enjoy, and that opportunity to play a role in a young man's life and meeting them at sometimes as young as 16 and getting a chance to see them grow and develop and see them arrive on, see them at their high school with their parents as a high school junior, and seeing them, ultimately coming to college at college campus, and seeing them go through some good times, go through some bad times, and see them change as they go. That is something that I've come to enjoy, and I think for parents, understanding that you view them as not just a chess piece moving around the board. They're not X's and O's. Unless you pour yourself into them, it doesn't matter where they're going on your grease board that you're drawing up. So ultimately, I think a big part for us here at Indiana State is showing the parents that our development and our student athletes, in the Sycamores and the kids that choose to come to be a part of our program, it goes so much further than just the court. And it goes into every facet of their life. It goes into preparing themselves for their career, to growing them as people and growing them off the court and teaching them what they need to be men. In today's world where they're getting so many flawed messages about what masculinity is. And I think that's something that I enjoy, and that you're meeting a kid early in his stage and you're letting his parents know that you're going to be a part, it's going to be a partnership as they grow.
Now, Coach, we, of course, during the month of November, recognize veterans, and Veterans Day in particular. Of course, your experience at West Point has to be one that was unbelievable, almost surreal, I'm sure. Talk about that experience.
I arrived at West Point in August of 2016, and I knew very little. I had very kind of the rudimentary knowledge of what West Point was. And in 5 years, I got my crash course and the people I was exposed to. Because really what makes West Point different, it's the people that surrounds the place. It is the selection process is so rigorous that you just create this elite brand of people that comes through the place. And just getting a chance to be around the students, the faculty, it changed my life forever. And I didn't let... I never let it escape me what I was recruiting to, because ultimately, yes, I was a basketball coach. I was recruiting to play Division I basketball. We're going to try to win and certainly beat Navy and win the Patriot Championship. But as well, I was recruiting them to be a part of the greatest team of all, and that's what in my view, I was deeply patriotic when I entered the job there at West Point, but I became even more so in the 5 years I spent there, and what I view as the greatest team ball, and that's the United States military. And for it's all for the flaws that exist within the organization, what is done there, and what's been done in the past, and has created what we have here, and what they've done and fighting for our freedoms. I will never forget that. And also, my point is, during the recruiting process, I don't want to lose sight that, yes, I was recruiting them to be great basketball players, but also I needed them to understand what they were accepting when they accepted that oath of saying, I'm going to serve my country and I'm going to protect it against enemies, foreign and domestic. I want to make sure I kept that in mind. In the people that I was exposed to in my 5 years, friends I'll never forget, and oh gosh, those people. The thing is, they think I was teaching them. They taught me a lot more than I took a lot more from them than what they took from me.
Well, it's awesome. We've got some friends of the show here, the Camerons, the Dailies, the Potters, who have sons that are at West Point or just recently completed West Point, and it sounds like it's had quite a profound impact on your life and your view of things, including the military.
Yeah, and at times in my tenure at West Point, I struggled to put into words about what made West Pointers different or what separated them. And then I finally arrived at the best way I could describe it. And there's a line in the West Point Cadet Creed that each student at West Point is mandated to know by heart. And they talk about, in the creed, they talk about choosing the harder right over the easier wrong, and pledging to do that all the time. Choosing the harder right over the easier wrong. And Joe, I think if you and I, or all of us, could pledge to choose the harder right over the easier wrong, our life would be a lot simpler, and we'd get ourselves a lot of trouble that we get into. And that really has always stuck with me as the best description I could come to describe my time there and the people that I met there.
That's awesome. That's great insight there for sure. So you were, of course, at what would appear to be a dream job, and you were right there in your backyard, it seems like, at West Point. So I know that I've told Coach Schertz many times, of course, with his looks and charisma, I guess he could recruit anybody and anything. So what was it that Coach Schertz had that really encouraged you to come to Terre Haute?
I am a lifelong learner. And that's something that I think I picked up from my dad and mom, who were both, I mentioned before, were very ferocious readers. I just have a thirst, and I'm truly, basketball and coaching is my passion. So I had a lifelong learner, and on that quest to be the best coach I can be and the best leader I could be, I think there's a monotony that takes place sometimes if you stay in, or there's a complacency, I should say, takes place if you stay in a job too long. I do think after 5 years, I loved my time at West Point, but I was ready for a change, and I was ready to expand my knowledge. And Coach Schertz is a guy that I had met 7 years prior, actually, at a Boston Celtics training camp where we met in 2014. He was there trying to learn and absorb the best he could. I was actually on my off day. I drove 4 hours down to go see them practice, and drove 4 hours back that night, just on the quest, because if I could get a chance to watch and observe Brad Stevens, an Indiana native coach, I was going to take it. And so when Coach called me, for me, it was a chance to put myself around a friend that I knew, and a friend that I had great respect for, that I felt I could learn from, as well as be a part of a program that is steeped in history, as Indiana State University is. So he hooked me. Whatever it was, he got me.
And of course, now that you've come to Terre Haute, you've had an opportunity to come in here at the chat. I mean, have you seen a blazer quite like this before, Coach?
Not at all. You put me to shame. You walked in, I was impressed. So.
Well, you of course got to take the hardwood last evening against Rose Holman for your first contest, and I might add though that the staff looked quite dashing out there. I mean, that was quite a good look.
It's such a nice relief for me. For me personally, it was. It's always funny to see what coaches dress in the different sports, and you have baseball. The managers wear the uniform, like they're gonna, if they run out of players, maybe they'll get the hit. And obviously, football coaches got to wear whatever was comfortable, got to brave themselves against the elements. Basketball coaches, I always got the short end of the stick. They had to dress up in tight suits and whatnot. And so, for one reason or another, college coaches use the pandemic, and NBA coaches, basketball coaches in general, use the pandemic to just do something they've always wanted to do, and that's get rid of suits and wear more comfortable clothes. So we went with it last year with polos and in these sweaters, and You know what? I don't think we're ever going to go back.
Run back?
I hope not.
Well, I was still pushing the coach. We might go with some plaid blazers for everybody.
I
so
do like that.
I mean,
if we
possible.
get those in the Indiana State, like
maybe just one game, like we'll have a throwback, game and pull them out. So
if we could look as good as you do, I'd sign up for that.
You flatter me, Coach. You flatter me. So talk about then. You've arrived in Terre Haute, and what's your impression then of Indiana State, Terre Haute, Vigo County, the Sycamores at whole?
It goes back almost something I'll reflect on something I said at West Point. It ultimately comes down to the people. And since arriving here on April 1, the welcome that I've gotten has been incredible. And going back to my first weekend in town, Coach Schertz and I are two Jewish guys trying to figure out what we're going to do for Easter Sunday on our first weekend, and living in a completely new state. And Miss Vicky calls us and says, "Hey, how about you come over for Easter dinner tomorrow?" So Miss Vicky's house will be the trivia question for what do you do as two Jews do for Easter Sunday. So the welcome we've gotten and the passion people have in this town for Indiana State and Indiana State basketball. I felt it everywhere I've gone, and that's been on the East Coast because of the hustle bustle of it, and because of there's so many transplants. You don't have that passion for college sports and that sense of community around college sports that you do here in the Midwest, and it's been very fun. And it's been exhilarating here, and Coach Schertz and the rest of our staff really just want to do the best job we can to put a team on the floor that Terre Haute, the Indiana State University, and the Indiana State alums are proud of, and something they can hang their hat on. So
what was your experience with Indiana basketball, Indiana high school basketball? Of course, you may not have been here during some of those memorable years over the years, but what, as thorough as a reader, have you ever read about any of the, particularly the old single-class basketball in high school?
My dad raised me right, so he understood. He taught me that there was one state where it just mattered a little bit more. And so from an early age, I remember, Bob Knight, and I read Season on the Brink early. One time my dad got in trouble with my mom because I memorized the old Bob Knight halftime speech where I think someone's recording him. He's talking about getting his butt beat by Purdue, and my dad got in trouble because I could recite that by memory. And my mom's like, what is he listening to? So I remember there's a book that followed around high school basketball, and I read it at an early age. I think it's where the game mattered most. So from an early age, I understood that Indiana basketball was different. And frankly, even all those years later, when Coach Schertz calls me and talks to me, there was something for me, as corny as it sounds, as basketball obsessed as I am, there was something for me that to coach basketball in this state where it matters so much and it's so important, that struck a chord for me. And when I was at West Point, we recruited the state very hard. We had kids in our program from Bloomington, from Evansville, from Columbus, from, I'm trying to make sure I don't forget anyone, from South Bend, from Indianapolis, from great high school programs around the state. And it was strategic by us because we knew if we were recruiting a kid from Indiana, we knew he knew the game of basketball. He had played against really good competition, wasn't going to back down from the moment, and we're going to bet that he was also a really good kid.
There's a guy at West Point coaching. There's been a few that have some Indiana ties, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, of course, without divulging any of your recruiting secrets, what do you envision as the plan for the Sycamores with recruiting the state of Indiana and the importance of getting Indiana kids?
Yeah, I think it's painting to them an idea of the opportunity to play in the Missouri Valley Conference, which is as good of a league as there is outside the Power Five, outside the high majors, and getting to do it at a place that means something to you, and being the local school and doing it where you're close by, you're close to family and friends. So for an Indianapolis kid, from a kid, anywhere really Indianapolis and down, getting a chance to compete at a high level, but doing it at a school where your parents can still pop over and be at every game, and then also doing it with that state, the state of Indiana blazing across your chest. And I feel that from like a kid like Cooper Nice. Sycamores, who I think takes great pride in being from Cloverdale, Indiana, and being an Indiana native, and saying it's a little bit different when you're doing that at a state university, and knowing that when we raise that banner, when we win that championship, which will take great work, will take tremendous amount of hard work, but when we do that, it will for a kid coming from Indiana, it'll be really neat, and it'll be something they can be very proud of.
I've always felt that must be an important recruiting element. You tell us from yourself, but what you just touched upon, the fact that young men that are playing for your program have Indiana State on their jerseys, on their warm-ups. What is the significance of that, you think, to local kids and kids throughout the state of Indiana?
Again, I think it goes back to that you could have done it at a lot of different places. You could do it, but the decision by an Indiana native to stay close to home, there's a part of going to school and being around kids that are, maybe from your hometown or from towns, right by you, and being able to say, especially where we're at, where we're new staff coming in, saying, I've been a part of even building it, and it's for the state of Indiana, and it's taking pride in that. And I think it gets down to that certain pride, and that Indiana basketball is just a little bit different, whereas everywhere else. So, Indiana, there's the other 49 states.
So when you're not an Indiana native,
yep,
and Coach Schertz isn't either, so how do you go about promoting that then when you go in these households?
You listen to whatever Matthew Graves says.
There
He knows everyone in the state. No, you listen to Coach. But ultimately, Coach, from the very first day he got the job, he tried to make himself available to Indiana high school coaches, Indiana grassroots coaches, and invite them to practice and make sure they felt welcome within that. But also, I think Coach Schertz needs to be very distinctly who he is, and who he is what are we selling here at Indiana State? Is we're selling a commitment to player development, a commitment to developing each player and caring for them and at a very high level and developing them at a high level, and then also with trying to connect with them about the style of play that we're going to deploy, and it's going to be very selfless, it's going to be very fast paced, very read and react, very positionless. So I think ultimately it comes down to who are we going to be, and expose that and play out a plan for these kids, Indiana native or not, that hey, this is what we're going to be about. We're going to be about caring and developing at the highest level, and we're about playing a fun brand of basketball in what's a premier mid-major league in front of a community that loves their basketball.
And a beautiful facility at that. Of course, we are talking about all that, and you guys are doing a great job in promoting that. So with regard to that, what would be the plan, you think, moving forward with recruiting and with the program itself?
Yeah, I think it ends up coming down to identifying talented players, but it's not about finding the most talent, it's about finding that right talent. So it's about finding talented players that fit our values and fit what we're, and see the vision of what we're trying to build, and say that's who I want to be, because it's not for everyone. And there's a fit in terms of style of play. Coach Schertz puts a huge emphasis on the ability to think, puts huge emphasis on skill level and getting guys that can pass, dribble, and shoot at all positions. But also, when I say fit, I mean fit our values, and fit our values of guys that love to compete. And I think competition is a little mixture of hating to lose and loving to win. And frankly, I think the guys, the really nasty competitors, are the guys that almost the hatred of losing almost outweighs the other one. And then also embodies the value of work, because it's going to take a lot of work to do what we want to do, to hang that banner that we want to hang. And so we're looking for the talented guys that embrace the value of work, and embrace the value of competition, and really want to try, have something in them asking themselves, what does the best version of myself look like? Or what would it look like if I maxed out my ability and squeezed everything out of that potential? What does that look like? And those guys that are serious and tough-minded and love to compete and love to work, those are the guys that I think would come here to Indiana State and really fall in love with it, and also see themselves really develop.
Now, looking at your coaching resume, it looks like you really have tutored and mentored point guards, and that seems to be really an area that you have specialized in. So talk about that and talk about how that plays into what you're doing with Indiana State now.
Well, it's a little bit too is good players make us coaches look like we know what we're doing. So I had the fortune of now at 5'9", I don't think I was necessarily going to take on the role of a big man coach. But I had the I've had the fortune of working with some really good players, and especially the point guard position. And for one reason or another, we've hit it off, and and going all the way back to Scott Machado, who led the country in assists back-to-back years in Iona College, only guy to do that. For the 2 decades prior to him doing that, Momo Jones, who was second in the country in scoring, who replaced Scott at Iona College. But it goes throughout, and I think part of it has to do with I truly see the point guard as the extension of the coach on the floor, and really as the he's making the most decisions as the game goes. Similar, no, not the same as a quarterback in football, just because every play the ball begins with the ball in the quarterback's hands. But I truly do think the point guard in the game of basketball is that extension of the coach. He's also the head of the team, both offensively and defensively in the role he plays. And I think a lot of it has come down to spending a lot of time in the gym with those guys and spending a lot of time watching film, which is something I love to do, and I think that's where the guys I've been fortunate to work with, be it the 2 gentlemen I own a college I reference, or Sid Sanders at FDU, who's enjoying a professional career now, or Tommy Funk, who ended his career as top 20 all-time guy in assists in NCAA history. I think a lot of it's come down to a lot of hard work, and a lot of hours that people don't see, be it in the gym, be it in practice or in film room.
That's got to be a great recruiting tool for point guards throughout this area that might have an opportunity to come work with you. So that's great, and I think it's important, of course, throughout college basketball, but it just seems like for some reason or other that it's even more important in Missouri Valley, that point guard's position.
Yeah, this league's got great point. This league's got great guard play all around, but also it's tremendous big man play as well. And I've got a chance. I've never been in this league, but it's been fun kind of watching in the summer and the off season as we prepare ourselves, trying to get a feel for this league and the respect that I have for this league, the coaching, the quality of players, the support in this league across the board. I can't wait to get rolling here.
Well, you'd be awesome in the courtroom, I'm sure, Coach. But it sounds like you're really happy the career path that you've taken here.
Exactly. No, it is. I love what I do, and I hope that comes out in my coaching, and I think it does. And I'm just blessed to be here, doing what I love in a state that in a place that really supports it and really has great passion for it and love for it.
So our viewers out there, they need to come watch the Sycamores take in one of the many home games that are coming up here.
In the beautiful Holman Center,
yeah.
It's gorgeous. The renovations. I mean, it was so cool seeing people in there last night, and getting a chance for the first time, being able to put what we're trying to build on the floor. It's not perfect yet. It's not, but we're working at it, and that arena and what's been done there, and again, speaking of the commitment of the university, it's awesome. I can't wait for people to come out and check it out.
Well, check out the Indiana State men's basketball schedule and get out to the Holman Center and watch them perform. It's an exciting brand and a great group of young men that you've got there as well. You got to be proud of them, and it's just awesome to hear the great things that you're doing to develop them academically and athletically and mentally, and just make them better men and human beings. So, Coach, any last thoughts for our viewers?
Roll trees, go State.
It's been great to have you join us tonight, and we encourage you to, again, get out to the Holman Center. And until our next chat with the chair, I'm Joe Etling. Coach, good luck, go Trees, and you all be safe. Have a great night.
DEMOCRATIC. Everything you need to know about the Vigo Dem party. So sit back, relax, and watch.